Welcome back to the Bass Capital Radio podcast. Today I have a lovely guest who I've had the pleasure of meeting before and am very excited to sit down with, Miss Debbie Brauneck. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Debbie, I am so excited to hear more of your story and to talk about the beautiful theater group that we have, River City Players. I couldn't get that out today. And you have a great deal of knowledge in that, and I appreciate you coming to share that. But as always, I start off with the question, the $1 million question, as I'm going to call it now. How did you end up in Putnam County?
Well, it wasn't because I was born and raised here.
Okay, well, we'll forgive you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Got here because my husband needed a job. He started out, we met in college at Northwestern University in Illinois. And he wound up going to dental school there. So when that was over, I had been there for 8 years and I was tired of the snow and ice. So I said to him, let's go south somewhere. You know, I'm ready to be out of the snow and ice. He would have gone back to upstate New York State where his parents lived at the time. He was originally from Ohio though. And I was like, no, let's go somewhere where there's a whole lot less snow. It doesn't have to be North Carolina, but at least somewhere in the South. And it was his idea that even back then, and this is 76, that Florida's a growing state. That'd be a good place for practice. Okay,
Right.
honey, go take the Florida State Board, dental board, and see if you pass, and then we'll make more plans. So that's what happened.
Well, you went from one climate to another. It's funny because when we were coming up here, we were just talking about the heat and how intense it is. It's the opposite version of the snow, obviously.
Yes.
You know what I did not know? I'm a Florida raised girl, true and true. And it wasn't till I remember when I was younger, it snowed once here, which wasn't really like snow. And then my grandmother took me to see snow in Alabama. Again, I was very young, but I'd never really experienced snow until I was in my 30s, just last week. And we went to Denver, Colorado, and I didn't even realize like snow could be dirty. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but in my mind, I was thinking of the mountain covered snow peaks or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I got out there and I was like, ooh, there's paper in that snow and it's black. So I wouldn't want to shovel and do all that.
Oh, yeah. I used to walk to work in the Loop of Chicago because I worked for Hartford Insurance as a claims rep while my husband was in dental school. And you know, for the traffic to get through the snow, they put salt in the snow, and then it turns to slush, and it's dark and dirty and mucky, and when you walk through it, it splashes up on your clothes.
Oh yeah,
it's a mucky mess. I was ready to be gone from that.
Yeah, welcome to Florida. Come on down.
Well, I grew up in North Carolina, which does have some snow, but nothing like what I experienced snow to be in Chicago. So I was really ready to go. He picks Florida. He passes the board. We come down here. He's looking for a job. He didn't like South Florida at all. Ooh, even then he said it's way too busy down there.
Not too many people.
Yeah.
Understood.
So, and I had an aunt, one of my mom's sisters that lived in Tallahassee, really liked Tallahassee. Tallahassee was a lot like North Carolina, but no job there. He found one in Green Cove Springs, where there were two dentists that wanted an associate. So he could just start to work. Doesn't have to have, don't have to buy equipment and all that stuff. Yeah. So he works there, and that goes swimmingly well. He's really happy about being close to the river where there's lots of fishing, And my dad was a big fisherman too, so I was used to.
That pulls everybody in. I feel like that's the theme of anybody who comes here, the river, the fish.
And to me, it was just everyday stuff because my dad was a big fisherman too.
Right.
So it all felt like, oh yeah, we've hit the sweet spot here. And then, you know, it didn't work out to become a partner with the two dentists there. And he starts looking to, you know, a few years down the road to have, you know, a practice outside of their orbit. So he looked at Mandarin, he looked at Ocala, and he looked at Palatka. And Palatka at the time was having a real nice economic boom. They had just built, the mall had been built. And was doing real well. Yeah. And Seminole was being built, and their workers had real good dental insurance.
Oh, very strategic.
Yes. And he looked around for an office to rent, but that didn't pan out. So he went to First Federal, and they were very happy to lend him money. So that certainly played well into coming here. And he built the office and commuted for a year because that was our first mortgage, the office, not a home, the office.
Right. Oh my goodness.
So we continued to live in the apartment in Green Cove, and he commuted. And then after about a year, we put the money down. We could put the money down to buy a house. So we didn't build one. We bought one here that was already built.
Way easier to me. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
yeah, sure
something to be
was.
said about building your dream home, but if
No,
somebody else can,
we just didn't get our foot in the door with a home.
right.
We found one close to the Rolling Hills section,
Mm-hmm.
and nice settled neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where we moved in.
And you've been here ever since.
Yeah, we sure have. I was pregnant with my second child.
So
when
what
we
year
moved,
was that?
that was 1983.
1983. I went to school with your youngest, and remember everybody went to Dr. Brauneck. Everybody talked about, oh, that's Daniel's dad. You know, he's my dentist. So, and that is what he did through and through. He stayed in the dentistry industry, correct?
Oh yes, oh yes.
So now, what did Miss Debbie do? Well,
Debbie, Debbie was a stay-at-home mom here.
that's a full-time
I did
job.
some substitute teaching in Green Cove before we came here, but then I
Mhm.
had the second one, and that's when I discovered, oh, we have a second child. The work doesn't go up arithmetically; it goes up exponentially. Like this way, not this way, this
Yes,
way.
yes, I can attest to
So,
that.
so I was a stay-at-home mom. I did get involved after Daniel was, I don't know, Daniel was the younger one. I don't know, maybe he was about 3 or 4. When he was a newborn, it was like, oh no, I can't manage that because I had
Mm-mm.
done theater stuff off and on all
Okay, so
through my
that
life.
that was in your
My first
blood.
role was Gretel in Hansel and Gretel in 3rd grade.
Oh my goodness, I bet you were precious.
So this was something that had always been a passion for me. So, and my next door neighbor, Mrs. Garris, told me that there was a theater group and that Martha Pace was in it. And I didn't know who Martha Pace was at the
Right.
time, but she lived one street over.
Oh, okay.
And so eventually I made my way to what was then called River City Repertory Company.
Well, that's a
And
mouthful.
yeah, it is. I thought so too. And I later worked to get the name changed.
So River City Repertory Company.
Right.
Ooh, that is a mouthful.
Yeah. And they did plays twice a year at that time.
Okay.
I got involved with them. So it was it was nice in that, okay, I got all this stuff to do with being a homemaker and a mom and kids in school and stuff. But I can do this on the side. Oh boy. And it's
A
just
little
right
way
here
of
in
letting you.
town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to rewind a little bit. You, 3rd grade, obviously, it was your debut. Was that something that your parents brought you up in, or was that just your personality? Like for me, anybody who knows me, I've got a big personality, and where my parents, then my mom has a tendency to have, a big personality. I'm definitely spotlight kind of gal. I don't mean to be, but it's just who I am as a person.
Yes. Yes.
Obviously, as I'm the host of a podcast.
Right.
Um,
All goes together.
yeah, exactly. So is that something that you kind of were, born with, or?
I think I was kind of born with it. My dad, I found out, did stuff in school. Like there was a music. I found it in some papers where he had sung in some kind of little operatic musical thing that they did in high school. He didn't do much with it when I was growing up, though.
Okay.
There was a variety show that the PTA did that he was supposed to be in, and I was excited about seeing that. I was, I don't know how young, 7 or 8, something fairly young. But he got a cold and begged out of it. And he never did anything with that again. So I
So you
probably
never
got it
saw
from
that.
Dad. It's definitely not from Mom.
Right. She a little bit of a.
She was much more the, no, we're not doing any of that.
That's funny that sometimes you don't know that kind of stuff about your parents.
Yeah.
My
Or
dad.
you don't realize it until years and years later.
I would think I was in my teens when I found out that my dad used to go by the name Buddy, and he played guitar and at one point drove a motorcycle, and I was like, who
was
are
he?
you? So I can relate to not knowing about that mysterious side of your parents. So obviously theater is in you, just who you are as a person. Did you continue that through school, or?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Whenever there was a play, I was going out for it. I remember I think it was, there was a part in Arsenic and Old Lace when I was in 9th grade.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
actually got a part in it. What all the other parts were people that were years older than me. I was
Mhm.
like, "Ooh, they let me in the door." Ooh, felt like that about it. There was no. Uh, I think there was a drama club at one point, but one year they might have it, one year they might not.
Right.
It was very hit or miss.
Mhm.
I remember when my senior year we did have a play. It was Hip Hippie Hooray.
Hip hippie
Right.
hooray. I like
Now I
that.
graduated. Oh, maybe I shouldn't tell that. But I graduated high school in 1968. So that's the year, if anybody knows their history, that was the year of the big divide in terms of hippies coming out and the summer of free
Oh,
love. And, that was a big
enough. Yeah.
theme. Yeah, that was a big theme back then. And, of
I
course,
heard that.
And this play was this little play was about the Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco,
Okay.
which was where,
Bra burning and
all
all
this
that
stuff
stuff.
started
Yeah.
supposedly. And it was a little play about that. And it was just a little comedy thing. And of course, I didn't know anything. As it was happening, I had no idea that this earth shattering cultural event was happening
Right.
and rollicking the whole country. I was just Rudy Tooty tooting my way through high school.
Living your best life.
So, and I remember it was quite fun, but again, it was kind of a hit or miss thing, whether there was a play to do or not.
Right.
And years later, we had Coke bottles that we had poured paint all over to make them bright colors to use as props in the play, and I'd kept one of them. And oh my God, decades later, I took one to a high school reunion, and everybody was supposed to bring up something. Do you remember?
Mhm.
So my little "Do you remember" thing at the high school reunion was I held up that bottle,
Oh,
that little
I
Coke
love
bottle
that.
that with the bright pink and bright blue paint that was just drizzled all over it and
Yeah.
covered it all up. It says, "Does anybody know what this is?" And lo and behold, there were people there at the reunion that knew it was from the play. They remembered the play and all that.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
figured I would stump everybody with that
Yeah.
one, but it
Yeah.
didn't. I was surprised.
That's awesome. I love those little moments of having that little relic and
Yeah.
being able to
Oh
throw
yeah.
back to that.
It was a relic, all right.
So I assume then that after you started in motherhood, took a little
Went to college.
went to college, did kind of took the backstage, if you will, and
Hmm.
not as many performances, or did you still
I
patron them,
I
or
I well, I didn't major in theater. I was thinking, well, Dad's paying the bill for college, and he wants me to come out with something I can do something with. So maybe I'll just, I decided rather than doing theater, I just did liberal arts thing. Got an
yeah,
English and American Lit degree, and took enough ed courses on the side, education courses, that I
right,
knew I could get a teacher's certificate. Blah
right,
blah blah. But I dabbled, and I took lots of theater courses there. And
hmm
Northwestern's quite well known for its theater department. That's where Charlton Heston came from.
oh,
Oh yes, and they were so proud
fancy.
of that too. But anyway, took a lot of theater courses as my electives and stuff
hmm
like that, and enjoyed that. I took stagecraft. I took history of theater. I mean, I took all the stuff that if you were a theater major, you were bored with taking, but I liked it.
Yeah, I love that you still stayed in touch with it, even though you may not have been performing at the time. I have always found the fact, like for me, I am so thankful this is not scripted. Anybody who's seen any of the shorts that I've done where I'm spouting off facts, there are 20 takes minimum to that. And I'm always so impressed how a theater group can take whether it's a unique play or something that they Les Mis where
Hmm.
it's already been written and people have performed it before, but can take a whole script, and it's already hard enough for me to remember regular words, as you saw in the opening, and then to memorize all of that, and so that and have the inflections and the interactions, but then for someone to build the set, and then to talk about one of my favorite, just talking about performances, I'm not a huge musical fan, but Hamilton was mind-blowing to me. If you
Yeah,
haven't seen that, go check that out. That's pretty darn cool if you ask me.
yeah,
um, but I think that it's just, I mean, we've theater has been part of our lives as a civilization for a long time. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you think about even when royalty was around, they would have plays, and so
Well, the
uh,
ancient Greeks.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
it's just something that we clearly as humans enjoy, whether it
Mm-hmm.
be in watching it or performing in it. So I find it quite interesting. And I'm curious why someone who performs at theater, say that again, that if somebody was a theater major, that they weren't interested in those classes.
Well, they're not. They're interested in performing. They don't.
Okay.
They're not interested in history of theater so much as they are in performing, and they all want to be the next Charlton Heston
That makes
kind of
sense.
thing.
Okay.
And of course the school wants that too, because
Right.
that's what gets them out in front of the public.
Sure.
Is to have stars come from
Yeah.
your school,
Right.
kind of thing. So and they were very focused on that,
Hmm.
very focused on that.
But
So
meanwhile, Debbie's getting all the knowledge in the background of the
you know,
history.
I was scurrying around taking whatever I could get into.
I love it. All right, so now we're here in Palatka. You found the theater group, and it would be RCRC for short, which doesn't quite flow off the tongue as well as RCP.
Mm.
So now remind me who you know the original founders, correct?
Yes, that was Martha Pace and Anita Home. Now, when they founded it, it was before I came to Palatka.
Right.
Um, and I don't know exactly when they founded it. I found an article one time said it was the early '80s, but I think it might have been earlier than that. And I did hear from another old time member, Betsy Scarlett, that there were groups before them, groups before the one that Martha Pace and Anita Home put together.
So maybe as another name, or maybe not even name, but just people
Maybe
who
not
got together
just
and did
groups that
theater.
got together and put on plays, and where they put them on or whatnot, I don't know.
Right.
But
If you're watching
oh
this and you're
yeah,
interested,
oh yeah.
call me. We'll talk about it because I would really
Mm.
like to know. There had to the point we were just talking about. Theater has been a part of
Mhm.
communities for
Mhm.
centuries. So I'm sure if there were other groups, maybe somebody has some knowledge on that.
Maybe so.
Anyway,
Maybe
I
so.
digress. Go ahead.
But I got in with this group. They did 2 plays a year at that point in time. So it was very easy to get, because when you're in the midst of a play, you got to be all in, and everything else has to go away for a while.
Tell the viewers what that means.
Well, you tend to, you have rehearsals every night. If you, and that's if you're in it. Then there's also the other aspects. If you're doing backstage work, or if you're building a set, you've got to have dedicated pieces of time, if not every day, a good part of the week, where you come and do these things. And that means a lot of times, or at least it did for me, okay, other aspects of my life are going to be put on the back burner. Okay, we're going to have really easy to fix
I was
suppers
gonna
for this
say
week.
pizza for dinner.
Spaghetti was one of my favorites because you could make the meatballs ahead of time. All you got to do is pop them out of the freezer, open that ragu, pop it into the pot,
Right.
cook up some noodles, and boom!
Spaghetti.
They
We
got
were
supper.
just talking about that last night. Spaghetti was my go-to meal when I
Yes.
was just like, I need to make it look like I care. But at this point, I really don't. It's like one step above cereal.
Yes, yes, yes.
So
And if you're really industrial, you throw a salad together too, and then yeah, you've really got a
exactly.
full meal here, folks.
Yeah, exactly. And back when
And then I zip out the door to rehearsal.
but they got fed.
That's
what
right.
matters.
That's right.
So that makes sense. When you go to see a play, that is hours and hours of
Oh,
somebody's dedication. Because again, I'm just thinking
many
about
people's dedication.
memorizing the lines like that. Again, I've 20 takes and I still probably have some variation of what it is. There's like the cues that you have to follow. And then a lot of people forget when they're watching a play that there's stuff happening in the
Oh,
background.
there's two things going on in my head. There's, okay, I'm in the play, and did they say the line they're supposed to say? Yeah, they did. Now I say my line. Okay, you keep that Ferris wheel running, and then the other Ferris wheel is, okay, what's coming up next? Is anything else out there that's not supposed to happen that's happening?
Right, variables.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the way it has to be. But
Right.
but at the same time, you want to keep your head mostly in the play, but you got to be aware that something else could happen too, and you got to be
Walk,
ready for
talk, and
that.
chew
That's where
gum.
war stories
Yeah.
come from. Everybody loves war stories because when the production's over, you go over. Oh, I managed to make over this part because da 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 happened instead of dee dee dee, and oh, I've covered that up so well. Everybody loves their war stories, and
I
you
want
never
to.
have a production that doesn't have a war
Oh, for
story.
sure. Absolutely. I want to get back to that. And I would love to hear, like, get a compilation of war stories from different. We should do that. We should get RCP to come give me a war
Bloopers,
story. And
bloopers, you could call
exactly.
it.
So the group, River City Repertoire Company, performed 2 times a year. Now,
Yeah.
where did they perform? Because right now,
The Well, it was before I was with the group. They had one of their members made a portable stage, and they would rent a conference room at the Holiday Inn, which is now the Quality Inn.
right.
That had I don't think it had been built that long when
Hmm.
they started using that. And they would rent the conference room. Thursday night, they would put up the stage, which is a portable stage,
Hmm.
and any lights or whatever else tech equipment they'd have. They'd assemble that, have their dress rehearsal, then come back and do it Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon.
Hmm.
And that was the run.
Okay. So
Just
they're a
three
weekend one.
performances. Just three performances. And that would be it till we did one 6 months later.
And now, if we're looking comparatively, these run what, a week?
Well,
So
we're running 2 weekends.
2 weekends.
With 2
Okay.
weekends. The first weekend is a Wednesday because that's our opening night gala,
Mm-hmm.
where we serve free champagne to
Mm.
everybody. Everybody gets one free glass of champagne if they wish to tipple. And so we started on Wednesday night. It runs through Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. We have
Hmm.
one matinee, and then the second weekend is usually Thursday through Sunday.
Okay.
But recently, we started adding benefit performances for our
I
sponsors'
know. How cool is
charity
that?
of choice.
Right.
And we look to that charity to fill the seats for that performance.
Oh,
And all
that's
the money
great.
that people pay to see it at the benefit performance goes to that charity.
I love that
Yeah.
idea.
So if the charity gets all their friends and enemies in there to watch the show, then they get a full house.
Oh, that's awesome.
To
Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah.
There's really a lot that you can do with that. So you guys have really changed, and you've seen it through those changes while you hadn't been from the get-go, and you have seen the things morph over the
Mm-hmm.
years. When did it kind of transition out of doing it at the Holiday Inn?
Well, after the Holiday Inn, the Price Martin Center got built.
Okay.
And we would rent the Price Martin Center from the city,
Hmm.
and we did our plays there for a while. They have a theater in there now, but that's not the one we performed on. It was another one. They had a portable one in there. Oh, that
Hmm.
one squeaked bad, but they had a curtain. That was
Ah,
nice. We had a curtain.
trade-off: squeaky
Yeah,
floors, got a
yeah,
curtain.
right. And I remember doing some performances in there, and then the new library. It's not new now, but the library got built out there by the community college.
Hmm.
And that meant, what's the city going to do with the present library? It became Larimer Arts Center. That building was built there's a big bronze plaque inside
Hmm.
the building. 1930, it was built with melon money. The melons from Virginia
Hmm.
used to winter in the 1920s, I was told. I was not here then.
Right.
In the 1920s, had a home in the historic district.
Hmm.
And I think had one at Crescent Beach too.
Oh, okay.
So they donated the money for this to be built. And it was given to the city, and it was to be used as a library or for the public good.
Okay.
So the library, after many decades of being there, moved out to their new digs that right there by the community college.
Hmm.
So now this building, which is quite the piece. I mean, we have plaster walls, we have solid oak doors. I mean,
Yeah, it is a
ooh,
remarkable building.
it
If you
is.
haven't been to the Larimer, even if you maybe aren't into theater, that building itself is amazing,
Mm-hmm.
and it really a time capsule
Mm-hmm.
of that kind of architecture. But as you come into Palatka, I mean, it's almost right as you come into the
Right before
over
you
the
get to the
bridge,
bridge.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. If you're leaving Palatka, right before the bridge, if you're coming in.
Mm-hmm.
You'll
Right.
find it. Google will help you.
Mm-hmm. Right across from Angels.
There we
Most people are
go.
familiar with Angels.
There we
That's
go.
the famous
Oldest
hamburger
diner.
dive.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if we've ever. I'm gonna have to do some digging on that. Side tangent. If we've ever been on diners, dive-ins, and
That
drives,
would be
that would be
cool.
cool.
That would.
All right. Anyway,
Especially considering the history of that place.
exactly.
1932, according to the sign.
Yeah. I love that you have these random history facts floating around, and you were not born in Putnam County, but you're official. You're one of us.
I've
So,
hung around a long time.
are there any other looking back to now? Are there any other members that are still in it that's been in as long as you have?
Mike Pivko, who was in our past Christmas production of Ebenezer,
Mm-hmm.
and he was here before we were. He did, I think it was, he told me, The Tin Man in The
Mm-hmm.
Wizard of Oz, which was a production the community college put on. And that was back
Ah,
in the 70s.
okay. So
And he
that's
went to the
amazing.
audition for his daughter. He had a young daughter to be one of the Munchkins. And
I love
how
it.
things morphed, I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm sure you can tell your story about that. Things morphed that he wound up being I don't being the Tin Man.
Yeah, I'd love. We
And
want.
I assume she was also a Munchkin. If he was there, and I guess they took her too.
Right, as buy one get one. I would love to have somebody who's been around, from the get go or before that in the
Hmm.
theater to come and sit down and
Well,
talk
the
with me.
founders were, like I said, I think I said before, Martha Pace
Hmm.
and Anita Hill, and I don't really know what their history about being in Putnam County was. I know Martha's husband was a professor at the community college,
Hmm.
and Martha worked in the radio
Hmm.
station, and she was often gone when I was involved with the RCRC.
Hmm.
She was often gone to New York taking acting classes and trying to break into stuff up there. So
Oh,
she was often gone, although she was one of the founders. And Anita Home had, I don't know what exactly, she wasn't active in the group when I started
right.
in. Um,
And they've all since moved from Putnam.
yeah, pretty
They're no
much.
longer
But
here.
the Pivcos are still here.
Right.
Um, and Steve Crowley was in the group, and he was head of the library, the Putnam County Library System.
Okay.
And he has since retired from that position, but he's still in the area.
Yeah. What we need to do is have a gathering,
Mm,
and we'll come over and talk to everybody.
mm-hmm.
But I'd love to hear kind of the journey that you've taken with the group. So you were playing at or you were performing at the Price Martin, and then the library became available, obviously, or the building became available.
Well, the two people who were most active in guiding the theater group at that time was Betsy Scarlett and
Hmm.
Marquita Hill.
Hmm.
They were a dynamo.
Yeah.
And Betsy and her husband had Palatka Printing,
Hmm.
which was a
Yeah.
printing business.
Yeah.
And that was, while they were in Putnam County. And that was what brought them. They bought that business to this area. They bought that business. And Marquita and her husband, I think, had retired to Georgetown, which
Hmm.
was why she was in the area. And how those two found each other, I don't know, but I found them at the theater group.
Hmm.
And when Betsy got wind that the theater building,
Right.
Larimer, as it came to be called, was going to be empty, she went to, I believe Tim Smith was mayor at the time,
Hmm.
and Alan Bush was city manager.
Right.
And she buttonholed those two and talked them into letting RCP go in there and build a theater.
Oh, wow.
And the area that used to be called the Stacks, they had a metal staircase that went up, and it was a metal framework where they had two levels.
Hmm.
That was taken out. And Betsy and Marquita came up with how to put a theater in there. And at first it was, okay, you don't usually walk in, when you walk into a theater, you don't walk into the backstage area.
Hmm.
But there was, how are we going to get people on and off the stage if we put the stage in the back of the stack area?
Hmm.
That just wasn't going to work.
Right.
We had to put it the other way around so that you're walking into the back of the theater.
Right.
You had to have the theater looking into the stack area so that we could manage to have backstage activity area for
Hmm.
set props to come off and set pieces to come off, actors to come on and
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. All the
Otherwise,
magic
we'd
behind
be
the
inside
scenes.
the box right here, and they'd be and your audience is in front of you. You'd never be able to get to them.
Right.
So it looked awkward, but it was the only way to make it work. Betsy got the Builders Association to build us some risers, so that you had the stage, and then you had risers going up to the back of what was the stack area. And so there are no bad seats. We have we have 70, 71 seats.
Which is incredible, because every time
Incredibly
I think about
small.
but it's still the fact that there are that many seats. When you're in the Larimer and you look into the theater and you look at the seats, I guess it's deceiving, because to think that there are that many seats in there, it feels very intimate. Not in not in a smothering way, but it does feel very intimate.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that.
Yeah, so
a lot of people.
I mean, I would have guessed. I'm not
But,
a good guesser,
but Betsy and
50.
Marquita were wanting a permanent home, more of a permanent home,
right,
for the group. And at that time, we were still doing just 2 a year, and so we got permission from the city to build it in there. She got like I said, the building association to build the risers. We started doing a fundraiser. We used the basement and it's called Larimer, sidebar here, because that was the maiden name of Mrs. Mellon. It was named after her. That's where the name Larimer came from. Brilliant. It was her maiden name.
You learn something new every podcast.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And there's a plaque about that. There's a plaque.
I was going
to say, there's a plaque in there about her, and a picture of her too.
As I say that, I probably should just start reading the plaques when I go into these places.
That's why people do plaques.
We're learning a lot of new things together on this podcast, and I really do want to go film, all the plaques that we have and the kiosk.
Yeah.
And, Anyway, go on.
So we started doing fundraisers. We did the best one by far was. We had, for about 7 years, we did a haunted house in the basement of Larimer. And back then there was nothing in the basement. It was a vast wasteland. There was one little front room where Grace Urquhart and Olivia Lay, I think, also did art classes.
Yeah.
But that was it. And in that part of the basement, there are windows that look out onto the parking lot. But in the front part of the basement, where it's more submerged, you're under the steps of the front, so there are no windows there. It really does feel like a basement there, but on the sides there are some windows. So we divide, and it's all divided into rooms.
I know,
but it's not. Mostly they had no door. There weren't doors though, just archways. And we turned it in. We covered everything in black visqueen plastic, and had rooms and and we had a director that was ahead of the whole thing. Nick Florentine did it the first year, and you'd be assigned a room, and it was up to you to come up with a theme for the room, something scary. And you pretty much could do anything you wanted to, but you couldn't. But when we had it, we had a guide that would take people through, and then you made up stories about, what the room was about and why it was there, and blah blah blah. And that was I was one of the guides. I always enjoyed that part, because you could just make up any kind of outrageous whatever. And you dressed in a costume. I always dressed as a witch, because I had this plastic prosthetic nose that I would get face glue and glue on, and then I'd put green goo over me and molds.
Do we have pictures of this, Debbie?
I hope not.
I hope so. I hope somebody's
and of course the pointed
this.
coin hat and all that. And one year I had a room, and I did it with dental smells. I went to my husband Terry and said, I need some smells, because people talk about how scary it smells when they go to the dental office. So I thought, ooh, that might be something different to do for a haunted house. So he went into the lab, and he gave me oil of this and oil of that, soak it on a cotton ball and put it in a little glass ball, a little glass,
Debbie, I promise you, I would have never thought to capture a dental smell. Like, I get it. People think that the dentists are scary because,
oh yeah,
understandably. But a dental smell, that's only
so
you,
I
Debbie.
did the room as and of course I'm opening the bottle there, and I dressed the room up as I was also. I think we had something in there we used as a dental chair. It might have been Mike Pivco's. He has a dental chair, or did. I don't know if he still does or not. But we put that in there, opened the smells up, and I came up with a story about, oh, they went to the dentist and they never came out, and da 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 da, you know,
Oh my
and
goodness.
you can still smell where they thought they were going to come from, but they never came back out.
I love it. So ooh, I wish that they could bring back that. That sounds like a fabulous time.
Well, when we did it, it was before Orlando and Disney and Universal and all those places had Halloween nights.
Right.
We were right before all that.
Hmm.
They hadn't started all that yet. So, and Betsy had gotten the idea from somewhere that other theater groups had done this as a fundraiser, and we thought, oh, that's perfect for a theater group. You know, thinking up something scary and
Yeah,
putting
yeah.
props together to make a scary environment. Yeah, and so it worked out real well. We charge almost nothing. I think $1 a person.
Oh my goodness.
I
That's
know.
that's a
And
steal.
the first year we did it, we had there's only one door that goes directly to the basement
Hmm.
in the back. And we had everybody coming in and going out. We had so many people coming that funnel just got to be too much of a clog. So
Right.
second year we were like, we got to do something about that. So
Hmm.
there are no more doors. So what do you do? Well, there was a chute for the coal, but it was too small.
Hmm.
You know, where people would have to, you know, they threw coal in because that's how the building was originally
Right.
heated with was coal.
Yeah.
That's why they have radiators
Yeah.
in there.
Yes.
And well, we can't do that. And then we decided we'd use one of the windows on the side and make a little short slide. People had to slide down the
Oh my
slide to get in.
goodness. How
And I mean, it
fun.
was real short. It was
Yeah.
the slide was probably only, I don't know, 3 or 4 feet at the most.
Hmm.
And but we, you know, punched out the window, put in the slide, and told people, you know, once they paid, they had to go down the slide. And then in subsequent years, we had such lines. In subsequent years, we would did carnival booths outside on the
Ah,
grounds, you know,
that's smart.
selling, you
Yeah.
know, junky little toys and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they come down the slide, and that worked out much better.
Hmm.
And there was one time when there was 2 little boys who came down the slide, no adults with them. They
Hmm.
just came down the slide, and at that point they've paid their money. And I'm at the foot of the slide in my witchy garb, and I start in with my witchy voice
Hmm.
and tell them, you are now here to be scared. And then they looked up at me, and they turned around and ran up the slide and out the window and never ended. And they told me outside they left the
Oh my
grounds and didn't
gosh,
come
Debbie.
back.
You did your job. You nailed
Well, we
it.
wanted them to go through. They'd paid their money, but they decided not to.
They
But they
didn't
were
even need the house. They got
they
the
were
haunted.
young. They were probably something like 6, 7, 8. You
Oh
know,
my
they were pretty
gosh.
young.
Somewhere a child is traumatized
And they weren't
over
with
that.
any adults
Yeah.
either. They were by
Still,
themselves.
kids like to be scared
Oh,
today.
they do. We do. But we made it a hard and fast rule. You couldn't touch people.
Hmm.
But you know, they would scream and jump so that sometimes we had to jump out of the way not to be touching them because we'd be hiding behind the Visqueen, you
Oh
know,
yeah. Mm-mm.
shooting the words out
Yeah.
or bumping the Visqueen at a particular moment in the story.
Yeah.
Because
I will tell you now, I think I'd probably go for the experience, but I know a lot of people love the Halloween Horror Nights, but I have a very vivid imagination and I get really into things and I don't know that my heart could handle that kind of intensity of haunted houses.
well, and the circumstances changed. Like I remember that first year we had a Sleeping Beauty room.
Hmm.
Where you know he spun a story about it, how there'd been a sleeping beauty that had been left behind, and
Hmm.
you know every guide had a different story for each
Right,
room. So
right.
you know even if you went through it more than once, you'd get a different story each time. We usually
That's
tried to
really cool though, because you could
we
go
try
through
to
it with
tie it
different
to something with the
experiences.
city.
Yeah,
You know, something being left behind. Somebody left this behind. Blah blah
right.
blah, or something.
I love that.
And it was amazing how much people fell into. I guess they wanted to be scared.
Yeah.
Of course, we had it dark too, and everything's covered in black.
Yeah,
And
no,
we're
that
walking along with a
adrenaline junkies.
flashlight, you
Yeah.
know, to get people through. And we had a lot of repeat customers too. We did it for 7 years, and then the
Great
bigger.
fundraiser,
And we
obviously.
started going to some of they started having these similar kind of things I remember the high school did a haunted house at the mall
Mm-hmm.
one year, and I went to see, okay, what are they doing? I went to check them out. And then I went with somebody to one in Jacksonville. So these haunted house things started, but they were done by amateurs.
Mm-hmm.
Were becoming more and more popular. And then, the commercial people got into doing them at the theme parks and stuff.
Right. Much
So,
bigger budget.
yeah, it's much bigger budget. Yes.
So you've
But
obviously
we had
found.
seed money now for our
Ah,
plays,
okay.
for paying
That
royalties
was
and all
gonna
that kind of
be
stuff.
my next question.
We made, I think the first year we made $2,000 and we thought we were millionaires because now we had seed money
Right,
to,
right.
to, to buy stuff, or, we always beg, borrowed, or steal
Yeah.
to dress the set. I mean, it's usually a compilation of everybody's living room
Yeah, yeah.
kind of stuff.
Well, that
But
makes sense though.
it was, we thought we'd hit Fat City.
So you got some money now. You're
Hmm.
able to invest in scenes. Walk me through how things have changed over the years. Once you started, really having some change in your pocket.
Well, we started doing more with our sets,
Mm-hmm.
and now that we were in a place, we could build sets and store them in the basement,
Mm-hmm.
so we could do more with having walls and those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have to be so minimalistic all the time, and but we kept the same stage. The stage that we put in Larimer was the portable stage
Mm-hmm.
from the
Ah,
years at Holiday
yeah, yeah,
Inn.
yeah.
They cut it down shorter and used that portable stage as our stage, because really because everybody's looking down at the stage,
Right,
so
right.
you don't really need a tall stage. So they cut it down,
Mm-hmm.
and
Waste not, want not.
that's right. And of course, we don't have we didn't have a curtain that you pull like a proscenium stage would
Mm-hmm.
be, but and eventually, and then we had this risers going back, and eventually we decided, this stage is just so small. Oh my gosh, let's put a little bit in front of it. So now the front row is pretty close to the stage.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's definitely an
Because we
experience.
extended the stage. We
Very
had
interactive.
and and we found out that we needed to go into the lobby area. We didn't just stop at the curtain
Hmm.
that marks the stacks area. We usually have a section that goes back in there. So over time, we enlarged the stage,
Hmm.
and it usually gets painted a different color for every play because it depends
I
on
did
what kind
not
of
know
floor the
that.
play needs. And in our plays, the floor can be almost like another character because people are looking down at it.
I didn't think
They're
about
not
that.
looking at it this way. Like
Right,
if you have a stage that's higher, you really don't even see the stage. You
right,
just know that people are walking on it, but you
right.
don't see it. But when you look down at it, you notice it. And does it
I
fit
never
with the
thought about
coloration
that.
of what you're doing with the walls and the curtains and the furniture? And
Okay.
does it look appropriate for what the setting of your play is?
That must have been in those classes that nobody wanted to take that you
Mm.
took. There you
But
go.
so, we not only do we paint the walls, we always paint the stage to
Right.
go with
I didn't
the
know
play.
that.
That
Okay.
that's something that needed to be done. And we painted the walls black and called it a black box theater because
Hmm.
a lot of small theaters, that's what they do. And it's not really theater in the round, but it's like theater in a U shape.
Hmm.
Sort of
Yes.
like Alhambra is, the dinner theater in
Yes. Oh my
Jacksonville,
gosh.
except their
Yes.
stage comes out more
Right.
than our stage does, a lot
Right.
more. So you call it a horseshoe theater in a
I
way.
like it.
Um, and we just started doing more with our sets because now we knew we could be in one place. We could do more with props. And when everything has to come in on Thursday night and leave Sunday evening after
Right.
early evening after you finished your matinee, you can't pile it up too much
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
how much can people manage to ship around?
Sure. And it's all volunteer based.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Now, how many? Well, I've got a couple questions for you. Number one is when did you move to the four productions? You feel?
That happened when I think that happened when Elizabeth took over uh, as the president, the leader of the group.
Right.
She wanted to go to four, and that was like, oh my gosh, we're doubling our sales. But she really opened a new chapter in the development of the theater.
Okay.
She uh, was all about getting the seats filled. She was all about, we'll beg, borrow, or steal stuff to get the set dressed, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah. And of course, when you're doing 4 plays a year instead of just 2, it's amazing how much more that puts you out in front of your audiences because you've got more for them to come and see.
Oh, for sure.
Once every
Yeah.
6 months compared to once every 3 months is a huge
Oh,
difference.
yeah. And you
A
wouldn't think
huge difference.
so. Yeah. I mean, if you think about, logistically, every 3 months does sound a lot more frequent. But 4 times a year really doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. I mean, it's constantly.
You're constantly turning around. As soon as you finish
Exactly.
one, you got to be starting up the next. There was no hiatus between them.
I can imagine being in one play and then doing the next and like merging lines or something like that. So she turned it around where you got 4 plays, so
We
you're
started
really
doing
out
4.
there.
Yeah, we started doing 4 plays a year. We worked. We were working at getting more actors from outside. Like we had some actors coming in from Crescent City because they had a small group for a while there in Crescent
Okay.
City, and they came and did some things with us. And I
How do
remember,
you find actors and actresses?
well, this was all before the internet,
Ah, uh-huh.
so it was word of mouth, pretty
Yeah.
much,
Yep.
kind of things. But having the internet and social media has changed that landscape
Sure.
entirely, entirely. And
They're
there,
finding you.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes for sure. And I always thought, we'll never have that many people in our plays because who wants to drive out of town to rehearsals? Well, there's a lot of people willing to do that. I found out,
Wow.
especially once we started having 4 plays a year. It puts you on the map more.
Yeah.
And so, we started getting more people from outside the county coming to the plays
Mm-hmm.
and being in the plays. And that has continued to bubble and be more and more true. So, and consequently, we started going out to more and more plays out of county, seeing, okay, what's this group doing? How
Right.
do they
Getting
do this part?
ideas.
How do they do that part? There's a group in Bunnell that had taken a church and converted it. We converted an old library. They converted a church. They had a fire recently, and they're still moo-mooing with the insurance, so it hasn't been
Mm.
repaired yet. But and there was another one I remember reading about in Alachua,
Mm-hmm.
the little town just outside of Gainesville,
Mm-hmm.
and they refurbished a church too,
Hmm.
a small church, and you just garner ideas from other places.
Right.
And of course, I think that flow of information has gotten bigger and bigger the more the internet and social
Oh,
media has played into it.
no doubt. I mean, really, you can Google anything in the location and find what you're
Hmm.
looking for.
Yeah.
And there are people who, I mean, I have thoroughly enjoyed going to the performances, and there are people who've never experienced that now can look
Mm.
it up and experience it. Um, now, how do you get the rights to do a performance? Like, explain that to me, because I'm a novice at this.
Well, you get it from the company. There's companies like Samuel French, which became Concord,
Hmm.
and whoever. When a playwright writes a play, he puts it with a company,
Hmm.
and you write to them, and or you get on their catalog, or they used to send out catalogs where you read it, but now you do all this on the internet, and you look for plays that would work for your theater,
Hmm.
and then you order copies from them. And usually you order one copy, and your script committee reads it and decides whether they think it would work for our theater and our group.
Right.
And then if we do pick it as part of our season, then we order scripts
Hmm.
from and then you have to get the rights, as you call it, and pay the royalties.
Hmm.
Royalties is paying the playwright for their intellectual property,
Hmm.
is what it boils down to.
Right.
And that gives you the legal standing to do the play.
How many options do you guys go over before you make your selection?
Oh my gosh, loads and loads, loads and loads, because you're trying to figure out, how, 10 men, 2 women. I don't think that'll work for us. We can't get that many men.
Right.
So, you sort of start with that. And what genre is it? Is it a murder mystery? Or is it a comedy? Is it a dramedy?
Right.
Comedy and drama,
Right.
sort of like Steel Magnolia, sort of a comedy
Right.
dramedy thing. Or is it just a straight um, drama thing?
Hmm.
Um, you know, does it have funny parts in it that might, you know, even though it's a drama, people still come see it, kind of thing. And you just, you know, weigh all those factors and make your best guess.
You guys have done a pretty good job, it
Make
seems.
your best guess.
What is the most popular style that you get? I would assume comedy.
Oh yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what Elizabeth really
Hmm.
drilled down on, because people like to come and laugh.
Yeah.
And it's really crazy screwball kind of comedy. They call it a farce,
Hmm.
and it's all about slamming doors and looking for your contacts on the floor and you know
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. And you know people enjoy that, and we did that almost solely there for a while. But after a while, actors get tired of doing just one type of thing.
Right.
And we found too that sometimes people that could come real regular weren't coming quite as regular.
Hmm.
And we asked them, and they're like, "Oh, I've seen that kind of thing before."
Ah,
And
they
we
want a
so more
variety.
recently we've tried to grow ourselves into more genres.
Hmm.
It's always, you know, growing is always has its, you know, growing pains.
Right.
And so we, you know, we're now trying to do uh, a musical. We're doing our first musical this coming.
Oh, that's
Our next play
exciting.
coming up is our first musical in decades. We did South Pacific, oh, decades ago.
Hmm.
Um, and we had like local well-known people like Sheriff uh, Taylor Douglas was in. It was he was sheriff at
Are
the
you
time.
telling
He was
me?
in the celebrity chorus of South Pacific, as was my husband Terry Brauneck.
Okay, so he's saying he didn't act because
Well,
Taylor
they
Douglas
were in
needs
a
to.
chorus.
Okay,
They were in a you know celebrity chorus. So there was enough singing going on, whether somebody was good or bad, and you didn't really pick up
I
on it.
love that. That's the kind of course I need to be
But that
in.
was a good way to get people in too.
Yeah, yeah,
And we had a resounding success with it. Of course, we also found out, of course, South Pacific is Oscars and Hammerstein. That's expensive.
yeah.
That's expensive to get the right to do that.
So
Even
I
though it's old, it was still expensive,
right. What's the
at least
most
to us.
right? Oh, sure. You're a small
But
hometown theater
but
group.
it went over really well. But it you know you've got to have a music director, you've got to have an acting director. You know there were
All
more moving
volunteer
parts
based.
to
All
put together.
volunteer.
You know we had Jeannie Brown who played the piano
Hmm.
was what we did for an orchestra for that.
It works, right?
It worked for us. Um, but you know, so you got a lot more stuff to pull together if you do that. So we didn't do another one, but we are doing one now. We're doing Gilligan's Island, the musical.
Yeah. Um, so I guess I
Eh,
I want to think about how it's come, from where it is to now. You've seen a lot of plays. What has been your favorite that you've done?
oh, favorite in terms of me or favorite in terms of the group?
All of it. Give
Um,
me your personal favorite. Let's start with
uh,
that.
I guess my personal favorite would be Steel Magnolias
Yeah.
because I got to play Malin and Martha Pace was in it.
Hmm.
And you know there's such iconic characters from the movie
Yeah.
and we had a huge turnout for it because everybody knew the movie
Exactly. Yeah.
and so that was really fun to do and they have done it more than once. They did it again some years later. I wasn't involved in that production and it's Steel Magnolias has become a real staple with
Oh
community
yeah.
theaters.
Yeah.
um,
I've seen that in other production
mhm.
groups.
Yeah, yeah. So I that would be one of my favorites. Although we've had a vast array of them. Like I said, now we're trying to do more genres. We're doing the musical. We did a drama.
Hmm.
We did Tennessee Williams, The Glass Menagerie, and we were gritting our teeth about it. Was this going to go over? But we had a very good response. It was very well done. We had a lot of very good responses from the audience that they didn't realize they had. They said that they were not so sure I want to come, but then they said once I came, I went under the spell of it. Was what one of
Mm.
them told me, and another one said to me, "I didn't realize it had so many funny parts." And
Okay.
that I think was the actor's skill
Right.
in it. I
Because they
really
bring their
do.
own life to it.
Yes. And so we were very pleased with how it turned out. Um, and then the other two, so now we're looking to do a dramedy, not a dramedy, a drama, straight out
Hmm.
drama. And we're looking to do a musical each year. And then the other two are probably some version of a comedy.
Oh, so
A
have a little bit
comedy
of
or a
variation.
dramedy. you know,
Dramedy, right.
meaning something like Steel Magnolias, where you have a
Yeah.
lot of comedy and some drama
Yeah.
moments,
I like that.
perhaps. That's the mix we're trying to work ourselves into doing
So
now.
over the years, it's just kind of refined.
Yeah.
What do you feel like has been the public favorite that from your experience, one that's still
Mm.
talked about to this
Oh
day?
gosh, I don't know. I don't know if I can pick one for that. Um,
There. I guess they all must be pretty good based on.
I can't think of one in particular that people are still talking about.
Yeah. What about some moments that have happened? Anything remarkable? I'm sure somebody might fall off the stage or something,
Oh,
or
oh,
anything that really sticks out that
oh, there was
there'd be a
one.
good.
There was one. It was a murder mystery, and I was the detective lady journalist person in it. And anyway, there was a lot of long monologues in that one, and there was one point where somebody got jumped ahead about a half a page,
Hmm.
and I'm on stage at that point. I'm thinking, where are they going? I mean, that's the other wheel that's going in your
Right.
head. And thinking, where did they go? And uh, and I just interjected. You know what? I think we need the maid in here. Now, the maid
Hmm.
was not supposed to come on.
Right.
The maid was Jane Phillips,
Uh-huh.
who was if she wasn't a founding member, she was close to it. Her daughter ran, and Mary Jane, she ran was the head of the library system in Flagler County,
Oh,
at
okay.
St. John's. I mean, excuse me, St. John's County, over there in St. Augustine, and she's a regular comer to our plays now. Miss Jane
I love that.
has passed away now, but and this is just a sidebar. Jane asked me when she found out I was from North Carolina. She asked me if I knew Ansonville, North Carolina,
Hmm.
and oh well, yeah, that's where my mother and my mom's mom, my grandmother, where my grandmother grew up. She used to live in Ansonville. She
What a
used to be, Jane
small.
used to be a music director at one of the churches.
Oh my
She knew
goodness.
my great aunt Dolores and Uncle
Putnam County
Bob.
makes everything a small world.
I
That's
mean, it
crazy.
was another
Yeah.
Palatka and Jane knew all these people that I knew off through my grandmother.
Oh my goodness.
So that was
Theater
kind of
bringing people together
yeah,
in many
and the really
ways.
weird thing about it was that I found out about it.
Right.
Jane and I could have been friends through RC, RCRC at the time, and never known about this way back in the background
Hmm.
connection.
Right.
But it came out because she asked me. I thought that was just the woo thing.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that would blow
But
my
anyway,
mind.
I called for Jane to come on stage, and bless her heart, Jane was playing the maid. She came on stage, and we just did a bunch of made up dialogue, and then I said some line that brought us back to where we were supposed to be, and said, "Well, I've got to go off stage now and do da 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 da." So we got everything back to
Steer
where
the
it was.
ship back.
We got the ship steered back to where it was supposed to be in the script. But poor old Jane, if I'd been Jane, I think I would have yelled off stage, "No, I can't come right now. I'm busy in the kitchen."
That's so funny. So more
But
like
she
a,
didn't. She came on stage and
she
helped
said,
us
I'll roll with it.
and helped us brave through our war moment.
I can't remember. I know you'll know, but like the whose line is it anyway? The stuff that's made improv. So
Uh-huh.
that was very improv of
Oh
you
yeah, there are
guys.
moments
Yeah,
of improv. Yes,
wonderful.
there are
I think
moments of
that's
improv, and
brilliant.
you don't know where they might happen.
I love that she just played right into it.
Oh, Jane was a trooper. She was a big trooper. And I remember her making a comment one time that because she was one of those ones that was always helping with something,
Hmm.
big or little or something in between. And I remember her making the comment one time that she felt like RC. It was such a close knit group of friends helping
Hmm.
each other out. So there was always a strong sense of that.
Hmm.
And I remember her saying one time that RCP had saved her life, and I think she was referring to some kind of personal troubles or
Right,
problems, and I didn't ask what that was,
right.
but I could tell no matter what, she would be there for whatever we needed.
I
And
love
I
that.
think that was totally personified by her coming on stage when she
Oh,
knew
for
darn
sure.
well she didn't have to be on stage. We were just trying to dig
Right.
ourselves out of a hole here.
No, I think that that's amazing. It gives somebody a reason to laugh or,
Hmm.
to step out of reality for a moment and get
Yeah,
sucked into something
yeah.
else. Now, we've talked about a number of things along the way, but we haven't talked about how did we go from RCRC, so the River City Repertoire Company, to River City Players. Tell me about that.
Well, I was the one. I was treasurer.
Mm-hmm.
I've been off and on treasurer and off and on president at different times throughout this period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And one time when I was treasurer, I thought nobody knows how to spell repertory. When I go and tell somebody about, they go what? When I say repertory, and they don't know how to spell it, and I'm thinking we need to get rid of that word because repertory is supposed to be
Oh, see, I heard it wrong. So I thought you said repertoire. I was like, okay,
repertory.
repertory.
uh, they talk about actors being in summer repertory,
Right.
and what that would be, it'd be kind of like a summer camp for actors in a way, but like a university would have a summer repertory, and it would be they would be doing more than one play
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, and they just keep doing them going morphing through the cycle of plays.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing one play after another, the same actors
Right.
for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great way for actors to get lots of experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very popular with actors. But that's not what we were.
Right.
We were doing individual plays with, we really weren't a repertory company.
Right.
So I thought we need to get rid of that name. So I
Mm-hmm.
brought it up in a board meeting, and there were people in the group who are now no longer in the group. They've moved on or moved away,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And they were dead set against it. That's the name it's been. It should not change. It needs to stay this. I like that name. Okay. So I back off. And then, some years pass. And like I said, some people move away, et cetera, et
Mm-hmm.
cetera. And I'm looking around thinking, oh, the ones that didn't like that name are gone. I think I'll bring it up again.
Right.
So I did. I said, I think we should change our name. Blah, blah, blah about the repertory thing again.
Right.
And the group seemed much more amenable. And I wanted to call it, this is some little history. I wanted to call it Putnam Players.
Putnam Players.
Because
okay.
that was more inclusive, I thought,
Yeah.
because we were drawing people from different parts of the county.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody pointed out, oh, then our initials will be PP. Nobody liked that.
Okay.
So then we kept the River City part.
Right.
We'd used River City before.
Okay.
So we kept the River City part.
It's a hybrid, ode to the old
Right,
and a nod
right.
to the new.
And it had that
love it.
aspect to it too. And a lot of people like that aspect too. So then everybody latched on to River City
It
Players.
flows. River City Players. It is
A
for
lot
me.
of community theaters go by names like, Orange Park Little Theater.
Mm-hmm.
When they're community theaters, they call themselves Little Theater.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I can see why they want to, demarcate themselves as being different than professional theaters, so
Right.
that people
But
will be
you
a little
guys
more
are
forgiving
amazing,
when they
yeah.
watch our performances, perhaps. But I don't know, and in some sort of way, I felt like Little was a little bit on the you're putting yourself down.
Derogatory side.
Yeah, you're putting yourself down a little
Yeah.
bit. I don't
No,
really want to do
I
that.
like
I
it.
didn't want to use the word little,
Yeah.
like a lot of community theaters
I
did.
had no idea.
Or maybe they don't now so much, as I used to see that quite frequently. And I didn't want to use that, which is why I went for just Players.
Yeah.
But that's what we're doing. We're playing.
Yeah.
We're playing.
I
We're having a
think
good
it's
time
perfect.
playing.
Yeah. I think it's perfect. So let's say I'm someone who I have watched and have loved and enjoyed. First of all, we're going to make sure that we put a link so you guys could check out the productions. We'll make sure that we put that in the details below. But let's say they want to get involved. What if I'm a brave soul?
Oh, you have to be brave.
Maybe I'm not brave enough to get on the stage. Maybe I want to help backstage, or maybe
Usually
I do. Maybe I do want to be.
That's
the star.
usually how people want to start out.
So-
Unless you're people like me that say, oh no, I want to be on the stage.
Yeah, no, that's never me. But I do understand that the backstage tends to suck you up to the front stage.
It can
I've
happen
heard
that way.
I've heard that
Yeah,
happen.
it can happen that way.
So
People get comfortable being in a group, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Well, tell me how. I just thinking about the stage fright of getting in front of not my group. But tell me how somebody could get involved with you guys.
Well, now that we have all this internet stuff,
Mhm.
we have a form
Okay.
on our website where you can fill in your name and your web address,
Mhm.
your email, and what you might be interested in doing.
Mhm.
And then when we're doing in a production, whatever you've marked that you're interested in, we'll put out a call. Okay, we need people to help with backstage.
Mhm.
You indicated that you were interested. We'll send them an email. You indicated you were interested in backstage work. We're going to have a meeting of backstage hands so that they can start learning the play
Mhm.
and learning what props we need and how we need to arrange them, because you have to know the play
Yeah.
in order
Yeah.
to help backstage. It doesn't mean you have to know it the way the actors know it, but you got to know what the order of business is in the play.
You
Like,
don't want to put a lamp when it's
right,
supposed to be,
right, or
a
some,
kitchen
or
scene.
somebody's got to have something ready for someone to take on stage. Those
Mhm.
kinds of things, and or sometimes we've had events in the play where a rainstorm happens. So
Mhm.
somebody's gone off stage into the rainstorm, well, they got to come back on stage looking wet. So we got to have
That
people
makes sense.
ready
Yeah.
to pour water on them and make them look wet, so that when
Right.
they step back on stage, those kinds of things.
Right.
And that varies from play to play, just depending upon what's
Right.
the play needs. What's so we'll put out an email to whatever you indicated an interest in.
Mhm.
And there's all kinds of avenues. I mean, you can help with backstage work. You can turn the lights on and off for intermission. You can be the
That's
person.
my kind of job.
You can be an usher.
Uh-huh.
We've taken to ushering. We've decided when we started this particular venue, we just had you just go pick a seat.
Pick a seat, any seat.
They're all good seats, no
Right.
bad seats. You just pick a seat. We didn't
Mhm.
assign seats.
Mhm.
So people started coming early, and they would use their program to put it on the seat to, quote, save their seat. And then they'd go out to dinner, come back for the play. Well, some people, you know how some people are, they don't honor the honor system.
Mhm.
So people would come back and see their seats had been commandeered. They
Mhm.
weren't happy about that. So then we kind of got shoved into the position of trying to make people
Mm.
honor the seats that had been, quote,
Right.
spoken for. And really not our job, but you want everybody to be happy.
Right.
So, it's that was beginning to be a bit of a fuzzy.
Mhm.
And then when we went to buying tickets online, people want to know where they're going to sit.
Mhm.
So we finally bit the bullet and said, okay, we're going to put down letters and numbers and have the seats specified,
Right.
so that when you buy a seat, you're getting this seat
Like
right
a
here.
movie theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also that way too, if people, we started doing season tickets, they could buy a season ticket for all 4 shows. That way they know that they have seat da-da-da-da-da for all 4 shows, if they want to
Ah,
buy it that way.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's so that's come a long way too, because when I remember one of the first productions that I went to, there weren't season passes. So
Right. That's a new
um,
thing.
that
Mhm.
you guys have really come a long
We've got to up
way,
our
really
marketing. We're
growing.
trying to up our marketing game.
I love
And there
it.
are people that, obviously, being an old building, it was built before the Disabilities Act and all
Mhm.
the provisions of that. So we do have a lift chair that people
Mhm.
can come in the back door and take up one
If they
flight of
need a
stairs and
wheelchair
be into the.
access, yeah.
And so we have to work with the best we can on that. There's been talk from time to time of putting an elevator in the building, but somehow
Mhm.
that always falls by the wayside and
Mhm.
doesn't happen, because that costs real bucks.
Mhm.
And a lot of times, if people have handicap problems, they want front row seats, because then
Mhm.
they don't have to climb stairs to get
Right.
to the other seats. So that became an issue. That became more and more to the forefront of people
Mhm.
wanting to have specific seats, or
Mhm.
why they would come early to, quote, save a seat,
Right.
and then be really upset if somebody commandeered it. So
Can't make everybody happy
hey,
though.
well, we try hard. We try hard, like, as every theater does.
Mhm.
So now the seats are, got a number and a letter, and you have what you have, or what you buy.
So you've seen a
But we
ton
don't
of
charge a different price for different
right,
seats.
right,
We
right,
haven't gotten that far with the marketing
right,
yet.
yet. If you want that premium seat though.
Yeah.
So you've really seen this come through
A
so
lot of
many
changes.
changes. What do you think has been the biggest change overall?
I think the biggest change overall was finding a permanent or semi-permanent home,
Yeah.
because you can accumulate more stuff in terms of your props, your flats, etc., and what you can produce on stage,
Mm-hmm.
and know that it will be there. And oh yeah, yeah, so but they forgot to bring it in, so you just have to do it without it.
Right.
You don't have as much of
So
that
many,
going
yeah,
on.
exactly.
You just have more stableness,
Mm-hmm.
having one spot where you do your plays, and people know where you are. And with the seating we have being arranged in tiers,
Mm-hmm.
uh, there are no bad
No,
seats.
you're right. I've sat in the back, I've sat in the front, and
Yeah.
everything is great viewing. And it is an intimate theater.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
really it feels like you're
Mm-hmm.
front and center. We're like maybe at the Alhambra, while it's still an incredible experience, you could be sitting further back and miss
When
some
you go to
nuances.
Yes, when you go to our theater, you can see the actors sweat.
Right. That and if you're in the front row, maybe catch some.
Could be, could be. We worried about that during when everybody was still super COVID sensitive, but
Hmm.
that's kind of tamed down now, so
Right.
that's good. Um, but it just you can't beat knowing you're in one spot.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, really, Putnam County has quite a theater scene, if you will,
We do because we've got
because
flow arts too.
we've got the Flow Arts, Florida School of the Arts, right
Mm-hmm.
here in Palatka.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Jim Pignato has done an incredible
Incredible.
job. I mean, those high school performers are mind blowing.
They are.
How I mean,
They are.
it's like
What
going
he
to see
pulls
it
out
on
of them is
Broadway.
incredible.
Right. And then we have River City Players. So really, I always argue that people, when they say there's nothing to do in Putnam County, we've got these amazing restaurants. We've got, if you want to go have dinner on the water and then go see a
Mm-hmm.
play, we have live music. Andrea's over at the brewery. She's got a band playing often. There's lots of places to do that. Really, there's a little bit of something for everyone,
Yeah.
no matter what type of art you're in. And I
Right.
love that people continue to step up and volunteer enough for us to have consistently 4 plays a year. And you guys have your home and you've got ticket online
And the Arts
access.
Council is also in the building too, and they have art gallery showings.
Yes,
They
yes,
usually
that's
have something
true.
on the
Good
wall
point.
when we have our plays for our patrons to look at, and the art is for sale,
Mm-hmm.
so they see those. Uh, that's always a plus, I think.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
some patrons, myself included, have bought some of the art off the walls that the art from the art council
I never really
galleries.
thought about that as many times as I've been in there, that art is for sale, because there have been
Yeah,
some pieces that I
yeah.
would have gladly taken home. So,
Yeah, they're usually for sale. And there might be some pieces in there where they'll say not for sale, but vast majority of them are for sale.
hmm,
And there's art gallery showings at Flow Arts
right.
too that you can go to.
And
There's
we got the
really
Gathering Artist of Putnam
Yeah,
that
and
started
then
that
the
there.
Arts Council also puts on concerts.
Mm-hmm.
They've done them at the riverfront and they do them in the building too.
Mm-hmm.
We have to coordinate our calendars with their concerts. They have
Right.
concerts. So there's really, and some of the people are out of town, some are not.
Right.
Uh, we've had Buffalo Munn play his trumpet in there. He's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
He's incredible,
I just
and
love.
he's local.
Yeah, exactly. I just love how we have all this opportunity, and I love that it just a couple of folks got together and decided let's do this, and again, out of just the enjoyment of theater. And
It's a bug that bites you.
I
It's a
think I've
bug that
understood
bites you.
that.
Mhm.
And I again admire everybody. If you are watching this interview and you want to come be on the big screen or the big stage, be sure
Well,
to
it's not
check
really
out.
big, but we'd love to have more people on our stage.
It's big in heart,
It
right?
is. It is.
A stage with a lot of heart. Be sure that you check out the links there in the description below.
Mhm.
What if we could leave on one note? What do you want to see happen with River City Players? Is there anything that you would hope in 5 years it would look like?
Oh, I hope it continues to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I hope eventually we might even find a bigger home. Who knows?
Yeah.
If it grows enough and there's enough interest generated, we might have to, have a bigger home. Who
Yeah.
knows?
That would be exciting.
It was pretty exciting when we first moved into
I
having a
bet.
permanent place,
I bet.
and that allowed other things to grow.
Right.
And so growth is always a process.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a process.
Sometimes it's painful,
Yeah,
but sometimes
That's right. Martha Pace was also in the inaugural season of Limelight Theater in St. Augustine.
I did not know
She
that.
played in Arsenic and Olace. I remember us going to see it. And at that point, they did not have a permanent place either.
Right.
They were doing it in the Munson restaurant of civil rights fame. Hmm. Where now they have a Hilton. All that got torn down, and there's a
Oh.
Hilton there now. But it was just, they did it in a restaurant,
Mhm.
and we sat in restaurant tables,
Mhm.
and they, I think, had 4 shows that year.
Wow.
And Martha Pace, our Palatka person,
Yeah. Moved
well,
on up.
she was in the inaugural season of Limelight Theater.
That's
So,
amazing.
look how much Limelight has grown.
Mhm.
They eventually got a house that got renovated into a theater. They found sponsors that would back buying the house, and then they got
Hashtag
sponsors that,
goals.
backed renovations.
Right.
And I don't, I would like to think maybe someday we could get that big too, but who knows? I'm enjoying being the size we are.
Yeah. Oh, I think that there's something beautiful about the intimacy of River City players and
Everybody's growth curve is different,
yep.
just like real people have different growth curves.
Yeah,
So do organizations.
and sometimes a growth, your maximum growth may seem small comparatively, but that is exactly where you're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've thought about plants. I'm on a plant kick, so this is why I thought about that. The giant monsteras that are so big they take over the house, and then there are smaller ones that aren't going to get any bigger. A good example is a Chihuahua is only going to get as big as a Chihuahua is going to get. You're not going to
Right.
get a Great Dane out of it, but it's just as special. So all that to say, if you want to take part in the
Mm-hmm.
River City Players, we'll be sure to leave some links in the description below.
Good.
I'm so thankful that you guys are continuing to put on an opportunity for us to come and enjoy theater here in our town of Putnam County. You don't have to leave. The
Mm-hmm.
production is again incredible. I love what you guys do. So I don't know if by the time this airs, if we'll be I don't think it'll be Gilligan's Island, but what is the next production
The
coming out?
next one is the Cemetery Club.
The cemetery. Oh, that
And it's
sounds fun.
about 3 Jewish widows
Mm-hmm.
who visit their husband's grave regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And on one visit, they meet a widower
Mm-hmm.
who's visiting his wife's grave. And one of the widows kind of strikes up a thing with him, but
Mm-hmm.
the other 2 widows are jealous.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
It's a comedy.
Yeah, I assumed, or a dramedy maybe.
Maybe a drop or 2 of dramedy in there, yes.
Well, I really enjoyed hearing about the transformation of the theater and the stories. And again, thank you to all the River City players who donate their time for nothing, just to come out and
For
give
the
us
thrill of
something.
getting to do it is our payment.
Exactly. And again, kudos to you guys. Hat tip, because I could not. It's hard enough to sit here and word. Nonetheless, remember all that scripting, or for all those who are backstage and maybe the faces behind the scenes that you don't really get to have out in the open, but enjoy just as much what they do. So I hope that we get to sit down in 5 years and you tell me about the
Ooh.
new theater. But
Ooh.
if not, and we are just talking more about the plays and the changes that happened, I think that would be equally as amazing. So thank you
Yes.
so much for coming
Thank
on.
you for having me. And
Absolutely.
thank you for being open to so much rabbit hole history.
Oh, we around here, rabbit holes is my thing. So, thank you guys for joining. Be sure to check out the description below, and we'll see you on the next episode.